I had been retired for exactly 2 days when the phone rang. The house was silent, the kind of silence that only happens after decades of noise. No morning bells, no students shouting "Good morning, Mrs. Miller." Just me, my cup of tea, and the travel brochures spread across the coffee table. Yellowstone, the Grand Canyon, places I had always promised myself I'd see someday. Then the screen lit up. Brooke, my daughter-in-law. I hesitated. Brooke never called unless she wanted something. "Hi, Helen," she said without a hello. "Listen, I'm going on a business trip. You can watch the kids for 2 weeks, right? After all, you don't do anything anymore." Her tone wasn't even questioning, it was a command wrapped in fake sweetness. For a second, I thought I had misheard. I had spent 35 years shaping young minds, teaching patience, empathy, discipline. And now, after a lifetime of service, my reward was being called useless. "Brooke," I said softly, "I have plans." She laughed, that sharp laugh that always felt like glass breaking. "Plans? What plans can a retired old woman have? Knitting? Watching soap operas? Be ready by 7 tomorrow. The kids will be there." She hung up before I could answer. I sat there staring at the phone, feeling a strange calm spread through me. All my life I had taught lessons, some easy, some hard, but this time the lesson wasn't for a child. I stood up, looked at my retirement certificate on the wall, and whispered to myself, "All right, Brooke, bring them over." That night, I didn't sleep, not because I was angry but because I was planning. After all, the best lessons aren't taught in classrooms. They're taught in silence with patience and a heart that's done being underestimated. And this time I was going to teach a lesson she would never forget. Before I was a retired teacher, I was a woman holding everything together with thread and faith. My husband, Mark, died when our son Michael was just 8. One rainy afternoon, a truck slid through a red light, and in one heartbeat, our world ended. I remember standing at the hospital window, holding my boy's small hand, promising him we would be okay, even though I had no idea how. I took every extra shift the school would give me: morning tutoring, after-school programs, even weekend reading clubs. My paycheck barely covered the bills, but I made sure Michael never felt poor. At Christmas, when he asked for a bicycle, I sold my mother's locket to buy it. He never knew. To him, Santa came through every time. We lived in a small yellow house with peeling paint and a garden full of dandelions. It wasn't much, but it was ours. I made it a rule that no matter how hard things got, we'd eat dinner together every night. That little table saw laughter, tears, and every spelling test Michael ever passed. Years turned into decades. Michael grew up, went to college, married, and moved out. I remember the day he handed me the keys to a new car, smiling proudly. "You deserve something nice, Mom." My heart swelled. I thought I had done it. I thought my sacrifices had come full circle. Then came Brooke. She was polished, confident, the kind of woman who looked like she belonged in magazine ads. She hugged me the first day we met, her perfume too strong, her smile too perfect. And yet, behind that smile, I felt something else: control. At first, I tried to ignore it. Love my son, love his wife, I told myself. But soon, Brooke began to chip away at everything I'd built: my confidence, my closeness with Michael, even my relationship with the grandchildren. And now, years later, as she ordered me to watch her children as if I were her maid, the full weight of my life pressed down on me. I had spent my whole life giving. Maybe it was finally time to take something back. The first time I met Brooke, I remember thinking she was dazzling. Her dress was perfectly fitted, her nails manicured, and her confidence filled every room she entered. Michael's eyes lit up whenever she spoke, and I could see how much he adored her. I wanted to adore her too. When she hugged me that first day, her voice was sweet. "It's so nice to finally meet you, Mrs. Miller," she said. But the way her eyes flicked around my modest living room told me she was already judging at the worn couch, the second-hand bookshelf, the homemade curtains. After they married, I started noticing small things, little comments that sounded harmless but stung in quiet ways. At dinner one night, she laughed and said, "Michael told me you worked 2 jobs just to send him to college. That's admirable. I guess some people just don't know how to save." She smiled, sipping her wine, as if it were a compliment. Michael didn't notice. He never did. Love, I've learned, can be blinding when it wants to be. As the years passed, Brooke became the center of everything. Holidays had to fit her schedule. Family dinners became her performances. She made every gathering about how hard she worked, how stressed she was, how no one understood her sacrifices. Once, on my granddaughter Chloe's birthday, I brought a handmade cake lemon, her favorite. Brooke looked at it and said, "Oh, how sweet. But we already ordered one from the bakery. Let's save yours for later." She never did. Then came the day of Chloe's 8th birthday party. I wasn't invited. Brooke said it was for kids and close friends only. I drove home with the wrapped present still sitting on the passenger seat, a sketchbook, and a set of watercolor brushes. As I parked in front of my house, I sat there staring at the fading evening light, realizing something painful. Love, respect, kindness, these are lessons I had taught thousands of children, but somehow, I had failed to teach my own son the one thing that mattered most: how to protect the people who raised him. That night, as I closed the curtains, I whispered to myself, "The poison is slow, but it's spreading, and one day she'll taste it herself." It was a Wednesday afternoon when Brooke made her announcement. We were sitting at Michael's dining table, the one I had given them as a wedding gift years ago. Brooke tapped her manicured nails against her phone and said, "So Helen, I'll be leaving for Miami next week. A conference. 2 weeks, maybe 3. You'll stay here with the kids." I looked up from my cup of tea. I didn't agree to that. She tilted her head, smiling like someone who'd already won. "Oh, come on, you're retired. You have plenty of time. The kids love you." Behind her, Chloe and Leo were on their tablets, not even looking up. Aiden, the oldest, just shrugged. They didn't know what love looked like anymore. They only knew convenience. Michael cleared his throat. "Mom, it would really help us out. Brooke's been working so hard." Working. That word made me want to laugh. I'd heard rumors about a man named Dominic, about business trips that somehow always ended at the same beach resort. But I said nothing, not yet. "Fine," I said at last. "Bring them over Friday morning. I'll take care of everything." Brooke smiled, triumphant. "Good. I'll send their tablets, snacks, and maybe their sleeping pills. They don't sleep without screens, you know?" I just nodded. But inside, something quiet and steady began to form, like the calm before a storm. This wasn't about babysitting anymore. It was about saving 3 children who didn't even realize they needed saving. That night, I called my old friend Carol, once a caseworker at Child Protective Services. "Carol," I said softly, "I think I need your help. It's time someone taught Brooke that motherhood isn't a performance. It's a responsibility." And as I hung up, I whispered, "The lesson begins tomorrow." Friday morning came with the sound of tires crunching gravel. Brooke's SUV stopped at my driveway, and before I could even open the door, she was shouting instructions through the window. "Leo doesn't like eggs, Aiden only eats pizza rolls, and Chloe's allergic to something. I'll text you. Oh, and no sugar after 9 unless they're cranky." She barely put the car in park. The kids tumbled out, eyes glued to their screens. Brooke blew a kiss into the air, not toward them, and drove away before I could say a word. I stood in the doorway watching 3 small strangers stand in my living room, each surrounded by invisible walls built from neglect. "Okay," I said gently, "how about breakfast?" No answer. Aiden sat on the couch scrolling, Chloe hid behind her tablet, and Leo yelled, "Where's the Wi-Fi?" When I told them there wasn't any, they froze like I had spoken another language. By noon, the house was chaos: arguments, spilled cereal, slammed doors. But teachers don't lose control. We wait, observe, adapt. I started with something simple. "You can have Wi-Fi after lunch if you help me make sandwiches." Leo grumbled but followed. Chloe quietly spread peanut butter. Aiden hovered by the fridge, pretending not to care. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning. That afternoon, while folding their laundry, I noticed a phone lighting up on the counter, Aiden's. A message preview flashed across the screen. "Tell your dad I'm working late. Don't mention Miami. Love, Mom." My stomach tightened. I shouldn't have looked, but the truth had already cracked open. I scrolled, dozens of photos: Brooke with a man on a yacht, glasses raised, smiles wide. Dominic. I put the phone down, heart pounding, and looked toward the living room. 3 innocent faces, already paying the price for their mother's lies. That night, Chloe wandered into my room, clutching a stuffed rabbit. "Grandma," she whispered, "Mom says you don't love us anymore." I pulled her close, brushing her hair back. "Sweetheart," I said softly, "sometimes people lie because they're scared." But I've never stopped loving you, not for 1 second. As she drifted to sleep in my arms, I looked out the window and thought. Tomorrow I stop being quiet. Tomorrow the truth begins to speak. The next morning the house felt different. Quieter, heavier, like the air itself was waiting. I woke early, made pancakes, and watched as the kids shuffled into the kitchen, hair messy, eyes half open. "Good morning," I said. "No screens until after breakfast." Aiden rolled his eyes but didn't argue. Progress, I thought. After breakfast, I asked Chloe to help me water the garden. She hesitated, then followed. For the first time, she smiled at a butterfly landing on her hand. Moments like that, small, fragile, were how trust began. Inside, Leo built a fort with couch cushions while I gathered my thoughts. It was time to call Carol. "Record everything," she told me over the phone. "Don't confront her yet, we'll need proof." So I did. That afternoon, when Aiden left his phone charging again, I placed a small recorder under the kitchen table. Later, I caught snippets Brooke's voice on speakerphone, laughing, carefree. I told Michael the hotel's for work. He still believes it. Poor man. Anyway, I'll be back when the money's transferred. Dominic's voice answered. "And the kids?" "Oh, please, he can keep them, I just need the house." I froze. She wasn't just lying, she was planning to walk away entirely. That evening, I gathered the kids for dinner. No tablets, no TV, just a real meal. At first they fidgeted, uncomfortable with silence. Then Chloe asked softly, "Grandma, what did you and Mommy talk about today?" I met her eyes. "Nothing important, sweetheart, but I need you to promise me something. Whatever happens, you three will always tell the truth, even when it's scary." Aiden looked up, suspicion in his eyes. "Are we in trouble?" "No," I said, "but someone else might be." After they went to bed, I listened to the recording again, my hands trembling. Every word confirmed what I had feared. Brooke wasn't just selfish, she was dangerous. That night, I wrote everything down in a notebook, the dates, the calls, the lies. Evidence. Then I dialed Michael's number. "Hey, Mom," he said, tired. "Everything okay?" "Yes," I replied, "but you should come by tomorrow. The roof's leaking again." It wasn't the roof I needed him to see. It was the truth, dripping through every crack Brooke had made. Michael arrived the next afternoon, still in his work clothes, tie loosened, exhaustion written across his face. "Where's the leak?" he asked. "In here," I said, leading him to the kitchen table. The recorder sat beside a steaming cup of coffee. He frowned. "Mom, what is this?" I pressed play. Brooke's laughter filled the room, cold, mocking, undeniable. He froze, the sound of her voice saying, "He can keep the kids. I just need the house," hit him like a punch. For a moment he said nothing. Then his shoulders collapsed. "God," he whispered, "how could she?" I put a hand on his arm. "You don't have to protect her anymore, Michael. You need to protect your children." He nodded slowly, tears glistening in his eyes. That evening, when the kids came home from school, Michael stayed. They were hesitant at first, unsure of the man who was always working, always gone. But something shifted when he sat on the floor beside them and helped Leo build a Lego tower. Dinner that night was the first real family meal they'd had in months. No shouting, no phones, just laughter and crumbs and the clinking of forks. After the kids went to bed, Michael said quietly, "I don't know how to fix this." "Yes, you do," I replied. "The same way we fix anything, by starting small and staying honest." So we began rebuilding. Every morning the kids helped make breakfast. Every evening we sat together and shared one good thing about the day. I started a respect project, just like I used to do in my classroom chores, gratitude lists, reading before bed. Slowly the tension lifted. Chloe began to paint again. Leo started laughing in his sleep. Even Aiden smiled once in a while. I watched them rediscover peace, and I realized something beautiful. Sometimes healing doesn't come from big gestures or dramatic moments. It comes from quiet consistency, from showing up, even when it's hard. The next few days felt like the calm before a storm. Michael and I met with Carol, my old friend from Child Protective Services, and with a lawyer she recommended, a quiet, sharp man named Mr. Lawson. We spread the evidence across the table, the recordings, the texts, the photos, the notes I had written in my journal. Mr. Lawson listened carefully, then looked at Michael. You have enough to file for emergency custody and protect the children, but you'll need to stay calm, she'll fight dirty. Michael nodded, his jaw tight. I'm done protecting lies, he said. That night, the kids helped me in the garden. Aiden carried a watering can, Chloe planted new tulip bulbs, and Leo chased fireflies. The air smelled of soil and rain, and for a brief moment, peace felt possible. Grandma, Chloe said, are you mad at Mommy? I knelt beside her. No, sweetheart, I'm sad for her. Because people who hurt others are always hurting themselves, even if they don't see it yet. Later, after the kids went to bed, Michael sat beside me on the porch. She's going to come back soon, he said quietly. What if she twists everything? What if she says I'm trying to take the kids away? I sipped my tea, feeling the cool night breeze. Then let her talk, I said. The truth doesn't need to shout, it just needs to stand firm. We planned everything. Carol would be on call, the lawyer ready, documents filed. And in the meantime, I kept teaching the children how to breathe through fear, how to use words instead of anger, how to build trust again. Revenge, I told them one night, isn't about hurting someone back. It's about setting things right. They didn't fully understand, but they nodded. The house was calm, warm, and alive again. And somewhere deep inside me, a quiet strength took root, the kind that comes when you know the truth is finally on your side. The day Brooke returned, the sky was dark with storm clouds. Her black SUV rolled into the driveway, music thumping through the closed windows. She stepped out in designer sunglasses and a smile that could have fooled anyone who didn't know better. Mommy's home, she called, her voice sharp and theatrical. The kids froze in the living room. Leo hid behind me. Chloe's hand tightened around her brother's arm. Michael stood beside the couch, calm but ready. Brooke, he said evenly, we need to talk. She laughed. About what? You look serious. Oh, did my little vacation stress you out? She threw her purse onto the counter and reached for a drink. Sit down, I said quietly. She turned, eyes narrowing. Excuse me. I pressed play on the recorder. Her own voice filled the room. I told Michael the hotel's for work. He still believes it. Poor man. Anyway, I'll be back when the money's transferred. Dominic's voice followed. And the kids? Oh please, he can keep them, I just need the house. For a few seconds, the only sound was the rain starting to fall outside. Brooke's face drained of color. You had no right to record me. Michael's voice broke through. No right? You lied. You cheated. You were planning to abandon your own children. She turned to him, tears suddenly forming, her voice trembling with fake sincerity. Michael, please. I can explain, he pressured me, it wasn't serious. Chloe stood up, her small voice shaking. Mom, you said Grandma didn't love us. That wasn't true. You lied. Brooke's lips parted, but no sound came. Leo peeked out from behind me. Aiden glared at her, eyes blazing. You don't get to talk about love. Mr. Lawson, who had been waiting in the car, stepped in with the documents. Miss Miller, he said, addressing Brooke. This is an emergency custody order and a notice of marital fraud investigation. You'll need to come with us. Brooke's mask finally cracked. She screamed, called me names, tried to snatch the papers from his hands, but it was over. As she was escorted out, she turned back and hissed, You'll regret this. I looked at her and said softly, No, Brooke. The only thing I regret is not teaching this lesson sooner. When the door closed, the silence was thick but peaceful. Michael sat down, buried his face in his hands, and cried. The kids climbed into his lap, wrapping their arms around him. For the first time in years, that house wasn't filled with tension. It was filled with truth. 6 months later, the house felt lighter. Sunlight spilled through the kitchen windows, the scent of fresh bread filled the air, and laughter echoed down the hallway. The ghosts of shouting and slammed doors had finally been replaced by warmth and peace. Michael had moved into a smaller home nearby so the kids could visit me every weekend. He looked healthier, calmer, like a man who had finally learned to breathe again. Chloe spent her afternoons painting in the garden. Leo built birdhouses with his tiny hammer, and Aiden had joined the school's robotics club. The anger that once clouded their eyes was gone, replaced by something fragile but real hope. As for me, I started something new. I opened Helen's Art House, a little community studio where children came to draw, paint, and talk about life. Some were shy, some broken, all of them searching for a safe place to belong. I gave them what I once gave my students: patience, kindness, and space to grow. Every now and then, I'd catch myself thinking about Brooke. I'd heard she was working at a senior care home now, quiet, humbled. Maybe life had finally given her the mirror she refused to look into before. One Sunday evening, as we all sat around the dinner table, Aiden pulled out a folded piece of paper. "Grandma," he said shyly, "I wrote something for school." He read aloud. "My hero doesn't wear a cape. She wears an apron, makes pancakes, and tells the truth even when it hurts. My hero is my grandma." The room went silent. Michael squeezed my hand, and tears filled my eyes. Sometimes justice isn't loud or cruel. Sometimes it looks like peace, healing, and a child's simple words. And that, I realized, was the most powerful revenge of all. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, The Art of Revenge. Sometimes the most powerful justice doesn't come from anger, it comes from calm strength and quiet truth. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and what lesson this story left in your heart. Because somewhere out there, another grandmother, mother, or teacher is watching this, wondering if her voice still matters. It does. And just like Helen Miller proved, you don't need to raise your voice to change a life. You just need to stand your ground.